Thanks for joining us for Design Diary Roundtable number 1. At Granite Game Summit in 2018, we gathered myself, Jason Tagmeyer, Daniel Newman, Chip Beauvais, Chris Anderson, and Jason Greeno to discuss our word of the day.
It says it's recording. Or it's not recording? Now it is. Okay. Now we gotta figure out how this thing works.
Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is
Subjugation. To bring under control and governance as a subject, conquer. To make submissive, subdue. And this word was given to me by BL Machine on Twitter, who said, "Can we suggest words now?" And I said, "I guess so." I don't know if I said I guess so, but I thought it was a perfect one for this. So, subjugation. What's it make you think of?
All right, so this is Jason Greeno talking here. It made me think of the roll-in rights that are becoming more and more popular lately. Possibly trying a competitive version where you're filling each other's grid on the table. If you haven't played a roll-and-write, it's like graph paper. You can fill in with a pencil icons that give you certain abilities. In this case, you'd be trying to bring down another player's country, subjugating his civilians. You'd roll dice, like typical roll-and-write, and that would give you access to different actions that your government might have. You could choose political, military, or economic, maybe covert. And the icons that would fill up your opponent's country or their grid would start to bring down their morale or their country's ability to function, so they'd need to fight that with their own actions, like propaganda. And you would have these tech trees where you could go in different directions. If you wanted to be a beneficial leader, you could go down one path versus a dictatorship, which might be easier, quicker, faster, but could actually bring down your own population's morale. Maybe even go as far as to have you affect world voting by influencing the UN agenda.
All right, so we're good. We're done.
Right, that's it.
Yeah. I think we're good. That's a wrap. All right, so let's. Sorry, I want to see that one more time. What do you got? What do you got, Chris?
So I only thought about this for a couple minutes, but I'm thinking area control, where you're trying to conquer different lands, and if you conquer the homeland of another player, you subjugate them. So now they work for you. They have to attack for you, but they have some autonomy, so you can't just dictate what they do. They're not out of the game, so they could maybe not listen so well, and maybe break free of the subjugation, or maybe get taken over by another kingdom. So you're trying to work that in. No idea how to incentivize people to both work for you and work against you, but you fill that in, you got a game.
There you go. Chip?
So I had different thoughts depending on the number of players. So with a 2-player game, one of the things that I thought of from the word prompt is bunnies. I'm always thinking about bunnies anyway.
This isn't the first time. In Universal Rule, there's an ability called bunnies.
That's right.
Which is so out of place, but we kept it because it was cool.
So if you have 2 bunnies together, they have to establish a pecking order. I'm sure this works for a lot of different types of animals, but in particular for bunnies, what's interesting is the alpha bunny, the one that's sort of in control, will put his or her head underneath the other one and basically insist on being preened. And then the beta bunny needs to preen that bunny. So even though it looks like one of them is making a very submissive gesture, putting their head underneath the other one, that one is
super
actually
passive-aggressive.
Exactly. So anyways, so my thought with a 2-player subjugation game, I'd envisioned a card game where you're collecting resources and you're sort of biding your time, and eventually one of you decides, all right, now I'm going to go for the, I'm going to sort of go in for the kill, and then, the other, there's card play and sort of like instance and counter magic in Magic the Gathering, where you're playing cards back and forth. That's a question of, can you fend off all of these attempts to subjugate you. And then if you do that successfully, then you depleted your opponent's hand, and now you can go in and, so it's really about biding your time and deciding when to attack. In a more than two-player game, it becomes more like a zombie theme, where the horde of zombies is sort of picking individual victims and then trying to subjugate them sort of one at a time, and then that person becomes a zombie as well. So it's a really different feel depending on whether it's two players sort of doing a timing game, or three or more players trying to sort of like all mob up on one person, and then they become part of the mob.
Neat. Daniel?
So Jason reminded me yesterday we were doing this, and I completely forgot.
What was the game?
So we were talking about it a little earlier, and I had this idea about a bunch of dudes going out to lunch, and a bunch of them want to get barbecue, and then they had plans to get barbecue, but one person who apparently was more dominant than we realized. The characters in the game realized he's vegetarian, so we couldn't go get barbecue, and instead he subjugated our lunch plans, and we went somewhere else that didn't have barbecue. So I thought that would be. I like quirky themes, and that could be a cool game to talk about subjugation around lunchtime.
Sounds like a drafting mechanic to me. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, that could work. There could be some sort of secret roles that you could pass around, and one person gets to choose the lunch, even though everybody else had already decided that they were going to go somewhere else. But it's just off the top of my head.
Of course, any similarities to people living or dead is purely coincidental.
Well, I just this came up. No real world references or anything at all.
So mine was basically a multiplayer game where everybody is I guess fighting each other in some sense, and you have like hidden roles or more or less hidden agendas where you're teaming up with certain people, and the whole thing's built around fake wrestling and a sleeper move, because I watch people doing a sleeper move and they pass out, and I'm like, that's totally fake. It's got to be fake. So what you're doing is you're fighting some people, and sometimes it's fake, and you're doing your fake sleeper move, and sometimes it's actual. Can you do that? Is that possible to hold somebody around their neck and then just pass out?
Cut off there.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
possible, yeah.
So since it's possible, the game works, but sometimes you're
So it's a dexterity
faking
game? Is that?
it. Yeah, it's just let's just get at
It's
it right
just
here.
sleeper
We could
holds.
just sleeper holds the game.
We sign a
You
waiver.
form a chain, and the first one to pass out loses.
Exactly. So mixing them together, all those games, we can have lunch. We can we can fight each other. We can then go get barbecue if we knock Chris out.
We can pass out later after eating all the
So
barbecue.
it's basically a game convention.
Yes, exactly. Chip, tell us what brings you to the con here.
So I'm mostly here. My intention was to demo Hit the Jackpot, which is a deck building slot machine game that I've been working on. And as soon as I show up, people ask to play Chroma Cubes, which is a great problem to have. But fortunately, I did get to both play Chroma Cubes and play Hit the Jackpot and show it to a couple people. What's nice, the feedback that I'm getting for Hit the Jackpot is less, here are the mechanics that need fixing, and here's what didn't flow smoothly, and more, okay, what's the price point for this game? What are the components going to look like? What should the graphic design be? So that's a really good place to be.
That's great.
So
what is the price point?
I think that. So Gil Hove is at the convention as well, and he was sort of talking me all the way to this end point where he was saying, okay, you could make a two-player version, you could sell a two-player version, and then you could play up to 4 people if you buy 2 copies, right? Because it's got the starting decks and you can mix everything together. And I have a player map that's huge just because it's a prototype, so I can make huge play mats. And he said you could condense this down to a little cardboard cutout. Here's the size of the box it would fit in, and at a $20 price point, this would, still be profitable. And he gets to that point, and then he says, "But I only publish my own games." So But that's good.
That's really good. It's good feedback.
And the other reason I'm here, who might be in the background, is my daughter Eve. So today and tomorrow, Eve and I are coming here and playing all sorts of games like the Princess Cupcake game, the McDonald's game, and the My Little Scythe, which is the My Little Pony retheming of Scythe.
Very cool. Chris, how about you? What's bringing you here?
I'm here to playtest if I can. I'm running the Invito Morte tournament tonight, and hopefully playing some games that are published, because I don't get to do that in my real life. But yeah, it's not too far away, so it's an easy drive for the day.
So this is one of my favorite cons to come to, just to see folks and play games with people I don't get to see very often. I did bring a game I'm working on, but it's kind of background for me. Like if I happen to get it out, that's great. But this is more like almost a buddy con for me.
Yeah.
I'm friends with the organizers, and I guess more just to hang out with people.
That's mine. It's entirely just to hang out. And I'm actually doing more podcasting than anything.
That's cool.
Recording this, recording other ones, and then flying out early tomorrow.
Yeah.
Will you?
So this is my first time at this convention. My wife and I just moved here last year, so we're psyched to find one so directly behind our home.
How close is it?
Literally could walk there.
Oh wow.
And since I just sort of met the Button Shy team, it was to meet everybody and test out some new games. A 9-card variant called Tornado Chase. And a 3-card variant of my game Pocket Kung Fu.
Cool. And I'm basically I'm just hanging out and podcasting, and I don't know. I mean, I just come here. It's just friends.
Yeah.
This is like, I know Mike Taylor who runs it. I've known him for probably 15 years now, and it's time to I can hang out with him. It's a 1-hour flight, something like that. It's super quick. I like coming here.
So it's longer to wait to get on the plane than to fly.
It was absolutely longer sitting around the airport than flying here. It's a 1-hour flight that always gets here early somehow. So
Yeah, no, I drove up. It's like a 5-hour drive.
it's too long for me.
Where do you fly into, Logan? Or is there a
Manchester?
local? Okay.
Yeah.
That's much easier than Logan.
Yeah, really. Cool. Well, thank you all. Thanks for joining us for lunch and sharing ideas. And I guess we should all tell everyone how you can get in touch with each other. While I'm chewing on my food, so I'm just eating bread. So how can people find you?
All right, so Jason Greeno on Twitter is at Jason Greeno, or you can look for us at epicendeavorgames.com.
Nice.
Daniel Newman, DNLNWMN on Twitter.
Chris Anderson, BlueCubeBGS on Twitter, and I also run the Board Game Workshop podcast.
Chip Bove, I am _flying sheep on Twitter.
Cool. Thank you all.
Thanks for having us.